Hi. Good morning. I'm going to be doing my makeup. Get ready with me. While I just yap about who fucking knows. The sun. The sun. Right there. There it is. Ah! I got this super duper cool. I got a box. What's in the box? It's a secret. It's makeup. It's a mask. A deer. I love deers. I think I like that imagery. I like it. It's nice. I love Montana. The reason why I got this is because it looks kind of like a spot in Yellowstone. And I get ready with me while I just yap about things that who gives a fuck about, right? Okay. So I love Yellowstone. I'm just gonna fucking forgive these stripes of sunlight. Okay, we're just not going to talk about them. We're not gonna talk about them. God damn it. I don't know why that's bothering me so much. Shut up, girl. Shut up. I went to Montana in the year. Now I'm so red. Sorry, I'm going to be red, and there's going to be random sun rays. We're just going to have to excuse the lighting, which is, dog water. Okay, so in the year 2017, my husband got a job in Billings, Montana, and we ended up driving 24 straight hours to Montana. Now, of course, I was going, or maybe I wasn't going. Maybe I was driving. Maybe I wasn't driving. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. So either I was or was not driving, but essentially it took only 24 hours, only 24 straight hours of driving to get to Billings, Montana. Now, you might be thinking, what the fuck is your problem? And, well, that's for me to know and you to never find out. I'm just kidding. I told my husband, listen, you've made that drive before, and of course it took them a couple days, but also they took a plane. Now, I am deadly afraid of airplanes. I really am. And with all this stuff with the blowing that happens with the astronaut abandoners. You know what I'm talking about. You can't say it, otherwise they come for you in the night like thieves. Anything you say against them will be used against you in a court of law. No, I'm kidding. But, I'm afraid of flying. Let's just put it that way. I'm frightened of flying. I've never been in an airplane. Get me a ticket to an aeroplane. I ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone. I'm going home. My baby just wrote me a letter. No, but I'm deadly afraid of airplanes. So I've never been in an airplane, but I can drive like a motherfucker. I can drive, okay? And I can drive very well and very efficiently. Let's say that. This is a hair clip of the day. I can drive extremely efficiently if need be. In the year 2017, I efficiently drove us 24 straight hours, slightly off and on with my husband, to Billings, Montana. We had a day to get there, so I had a time constraint, and, but we did it. Anyways, was I allowed to go with him? No. But he had his own hotel room, and it was, the men were not allowed to bring their wives. They were expected to leave their wives at home and then, just go out of town and, do things or whatever. But I am a traveler at heart. I have to go. I have to see. He's experiencing things. He told me it was the most beautiful thing to see it from the airplane. He went to the, on the airplane, and he saw it, and it was divine according to him. So if it's divine according to him, and sometimes he has a little bit of a difficulty explaining things, then it must have been way more than what he has explained to me. So I was like, I have to go. And he was going to be there for a week or so, possibly a month. They didn't give him an appropriate length of time as to their estimation of how long he was going to be working there. So it was essentially like he was going to be living out of a hotel room in Billings, Montana for the time being. So he had a hotel by himself, and I was like, well, listen, I had a baby. We had just had a baby, and I was like, I would like to I would like to go. And I will not take no as an answer. So we went together, and it's like he kind of hid his family in his hotel room or whatever. And it was fine, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So we went to Billings. So we went to Billings, and we lived there for, however long it took. I don't know. I can't remember if it was a couple of weeks, a week. I know it was more than a few days. But we lived at the hotel room, and because we lived there, first of all, I wanted to physically move there. I haven't gotten over it. And I had these dreams before we went of me and my friend, my best friend, and we were two indigenous men, me and her. It was like a weird dream I had before. I had not done any research on Billings beforehand, so I was just excited to go to Montana. I heard it was beautiful for my husband, who kind of, he was selling it selling it short. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I cried when we left. I physically was like dry heave vomiting when we left because I did not want to leave, and I wanted to do anything I could to stay. I just did not want to leave. Anyways, I had this dream that me and my friend, we're both females in this lifetime, but we were indigenous men, and we were on these horses in a forest, a thick amount of forest. And I have peculiar dreams all the fucking time, and whatever. I don't think anything too much of it. I just think that I have an extremely vivid dream time sesh every time I close my fucking eyes. So we were in a thicket of forest, and she was kind of slumped over on her horse, but she was a man. So he was slumped over on his horse, and I was pulling his horse towards through this grove of trees while the sun was setting, and it was like hitting every tree, and the mist coming up off the ground created like a golden aura. You know what I'm saying? It created this golden aura of almost like dusk. It was a golden aura of dusk. And, he was slumped over on his horse, and I was like, no, come on, we have to go. We have to keep going. But there was these patches on us. We were kind of sick. And we got past the grove of trees, and there were thin ones and larger ones, but mostly there were many, many, many tiny trees in this golden aura of like dusk, right? Or right before dusk. And we got to the edge of the trees, and there was a cliff, and then me and him at the time, looked at each other, and we dove over the cliff. We like fucking swan dived. We swan dove off the cliffs into like these rocks and like a river below. It was a very, very high cliff. And anyways, I went to Billings, and I started feeling a certain way. And I remembered that dream I had, and I was like, this is fucking weird. And then there's these cliffs. This is the appropriate name. I don't know. I'll go do research in a minute. But what I remember, they're called like sacrifice cliffs. And then I heard the story, and I was like, no fucking way. I had a dream. Me and my friend, we were men in a different lifetime. And we did that. But after that lifetime, it was a multiple stitched together lifetime, past life dream kind of thing. Now, is this real? No, it was a dream, but I'm just telling you kind of what I felt about it. Now, it's whatever. I don't really give a fuck what you think, or what, honestly, sometimes what I think, but essentially this is what I gathered from my own story that my dreamland had cooked up for me, that maybe me and her had known each other in a past life and had sacrificed ourselves because of, like, I had no idea about the sacrifice cliffs and Billings, or the stories of what happened, over the Yellowstone River. So then in that dream, we actually reincarnated. We were in this strange land, and we had reincarnated into different lives. And I remember, like, after we had sacrificed ourselves, she had gone to Africa. Like, her soul had gone to incarnate in Africa, and mine had gone somewhere else. But we had shouted at each other across time and space, and it was weird. It was like a weird, I was in one lifetime and she was in another, and I was like, hello over there, I'll come find you again, I'll come see you one more time, I'll come find you some other time, And that's how the dream ended, was like there was this beautiful rainbow, like of a waterfall mist, and I was shouting through it to see, like, past the waterfall mist, her lifetime where she had went and incarnated in Africa or whatever. That's just how my dream went. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. But then I found out in Billings that there's this story of these two warriors who had dove off the cliffs there, and in order to kind of like they essentially, I'm gonna botch this story. Okay, it's been a while since I've read this story, but essentially the story goes that the fair people came over, gave the indigenous people smallpox and all kinds of different diseases and whatnot, and the last two brave warriors sacrificed themselves off the cliff to kind of like, I don't know, there's a whole story about it. You could go look it up yourself. Billings, Montana, and then the story of the cliffs there, or the little, that story, whatever. You could go do your own research, and I actually implore you to go do your own research and not just take what I say at face value. I think that you should take sometimes what I say, and if it interests you, you need to go do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Do not ever take something I say and run with it, because number one, you're gonna trip. Number two, I am and I am not, so let's just not even fucking go there, honeybee. Number three, it's up to you. It's your duty to do things in general, so go do your own research. If you find something I say interesting, then go develop a sniffer, bloodhound boy, and go start sniffing around. Figure out some things. Figure out what everyone says about it. I don't think that anyone should take what I say. I was like, these are my personal experiences. Now, how are you going to experience that story? What is that story going to make you feel? How does Billings, Montana make you feel? Like, how do, maybe you hate it. Maybe you hate that story, Everyone's different. So I don't think it's a intelligent thing to take something I say and run with it and then go allow it to, whatever. I'm telling you things. It's the telephone game. I think it's important for people to go do their own research. So do your own research. And like I said, if I say something that you find is interesting about a god, goddess story, perhaps go do research on your own and find how it develops for you then, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Viewers like you. Thanks. But yeah, so we went to Billings, and my biggest thing was I wanted to go to Yellowstone. I had to go there, but it was a couple hours away. It actually was pretty fucking far away from Billings. So my husband was working like a dog. He was working like a fucking animal. They had him working nights, and me and my kids, we lived in the hotel and tried to make the best out of what we could with the situation. There was a Toys R Us near us, so we'd walk there. And in Billings, there are all these rabbits, wild rabbits. Like, we have squirrels down here everywhere, and you could smell them. There's a specific scent with rabbits. I like it, but some people probably don't like it, but there are all these wild rabbits. And the issue with wild rabbits is that they create dens and caverns underneath the earth, and so when you step on the ground, you could fall into it. Isn't that fucking hilarious? Isn't that so funny that these cute little bunnies are out here causing all this trouble? I think it's cute. I liked them a lot. So we would walk to Toys R Us, which was, a couple blocks away, whatever. I'd have my little stroller, and me and my son would get out of the hotel. And so it was just easier for us to do that. The one thing they told me about Billings, because I am Hispanic, my grandmother's from Mexico, my father's Mexican. Let's just start from there. They said, do not eat the Mexican food in Montana, because it was not Mexican food. Now, these boys, these ragtag chemical plant workers, we are all Tex-Mex, right? Or at least we live next to the border-ish, So in South Texas, so we know what Mexican food is. If we're not Mexican ourselves, our mothers, grandmothers, they make homemade tamales and whatnot. But the Mexican food in Montana, they told us, stay away from, because it was just different flavors. When you leave Texas and you go to New Mexico, one state over, or I guess that way, one state over, whatever, to the west, the flavors shift and change. Now, when you drive 24 hours to Montana, which is close to Canada, those Mexican flavors from Mexico don't translate correctly as to what you think Mexican food should taste like here in South Texas. What your immediate initial first trip to Flavor Town I don't know how to say your first, the first sprout of the deposit of the image of what you think and feel and taste Mexican food should taste like was different in Montana. So they said, stay away from it. You know what I mean? They were just like, don't eat the Mexican food in Montana. And I was like, why? I was like, is it Montezuma's revenge? Or are we going to get, the runs? What's happening here? There's a rude thing people say about eating Mexican food or drinking water in Mexico. They call it Montezuma's revenge. Anyways, you get traveler sickness. So anyways, they were warning us about traveler sickness in Montana from the Mexican food. Oh, I'm sorry. But anyways, there's bunny rabbits everywhere. Wild rabbits. Like there are squirrels down here just everywhere. It was amazing. And there's this one rock where all the rabbits lived underneath it, outside of a strip mall, like a little chain of like stores, you know what I mean? Like an outdoor strip mall where there's like one store, two, like a T-Mobile store, a Payless or something. You know what I'm saying? There's like multiple places on in a strip, right? In a strand of businesses. But there was this one rock, and it was kind of a funny looking rock. But on top of it, every day when I passed would be a black rabbit. And the black rabbit stood on the rock and always looked me in the face kind of thing, while all the other bunnies were kind of hopping around under the rock. And sometimes they'd go into a cavern that they had dug for themselves beneath the rock as like for safety, I suppose. But it was so peculiar. This black rabbit would stand on the rock and always kind of watch and be aware, and I would pass it up, and I wasn't ever trying to grab them or whatever. My son was to an extent, because he was like about 6 or 7 at the time, and then I had a newborn. But it was so funny because I was like, no, leave them be. Watch them. You could watch, but let's observe, And so the black rabbit would just kind of watch us pass by. And we'd walk to Toys R Us, and I'd let my son we'd spend like hours in there fucking around and looking at all the cool new toys and playing with displays and whatnot. Because it was something fun to do. Just leave the hotel and go do something, right? And then like whenever it was payday, we would get one toy because we would have to load everything back up into the car and drive 24 straight hours back to Texas. I wanted to go to Yellowstone. I had a feeling that I needed to go to Yellowstone. And with my feelings, I am much like a bloodhound. If I have a feeling, it's a pull. Like I've said before, like a treble hook. It's a type of fishing hook. A treble hook shoved into my heart, yanking it forward and forward. So when I have these strong magnetic feelings towards something, it's an indication that I personally need to go and do some research. What is this feeling? Why do I want to go there? Is it, is it my ancestors? Is it, what is it, So we were in Crow Nation, and I felt such a strong, deep pull to it. I felt so strongly about it. I was so confused at the time, and all I had was my feelings, really, that were guiding me through this experience. I was trusting my feelings. I was trusting myself and my blood and everything that was in it, my dreams. I was so trusting of my journey while I was in Montana. And so my husband got a day off, and he was like, I'm so fucking tired. We can't go to Yellowstone. I'm tired. I said, we shall. Do you trust me? I trust myself, but do you trust me? And he was like, yes, bitch, I fucking, no, I'm kidding. He did trust me. And so I said, if you sleep in the car, I will get us there. So I drove from Billings to Yellowstone, and that took quite some time. And within Yellowstone, there is no cell phone service. You could die. You really, really could die out in Yellowstone. They have radios, and they have stations on the car. There's airwaves that are there's no cell phone towers, really. So when you're into the thick of it, when you're in the thick of Yellowstone, there is no cell phone service. It's kind of hard for GPS to work. when there's like nothing to grab onto. So we had to old school it, you know what I mean? Get a map and kind of instinctively wander around the park. But we got there, and the first thing we ate was huckleberry. Everything was huckleberry, and that's my favorite flavor in the entire universe of sweet treats is huckleberry. I love huckleberry. It's so delicious. It is the prettiest color, the most beautiful pigment of purple and cream, and it's so divine. The color that huckleberry provides is so beautiful, and it's just one of my favorite. I have a very distinct palette that I enjoy. I enjoy these colors. Black, white, red, and gray. Those are my favorites. But outside of my favorites, I have these other kind of honorary mentions, and huckleberry, that beautiful, like, it's not lavender. It is different. It's more full. It's like a more full, deeper, lighter. It's a strange shade. But there was like huckleberry candy and jam and jelly and syrup, and I was in heaven. I love huckleberry so much, and I had never tasted it until then, until we left Texas and went to Montana, and it grew rampant there, and everything was huckleberry this, huckleberry that. And so even like at Walmart in the tourist area, they were like, would you like some huckleberry candy to take with you, or blah blah blah, it was one of their major little things they did in Montana. And I said, yes, I would. This is delicious, give me all of it, So I did. I gathered syrup and candy and sweet treats and everything, and I had an entire like basket full of like huckleberry flavored things, and I took it back to Texas, and I slowly, over time, every time I was sad, I would eat something that was huckleberry flavored. I'd be like, don't you remember Montana? There is a place out there that made you feel so connected to God and your ancestors and everything in the entire universe. Don't ever forget that, silly girl. Don't ever forget that. There was a place on earth that made you feel, again, real and alive. So don't forget that. And so anyways, when we were in Yellowstone, we went to a little cafe where a lot of retired people go. Lots of elderly people in caravans or RVs, they go to Yellowstone and they live out their life there, and they travel around and they talk to each other on their little radio comms and whatnot. But there's a whole culture behind elderly people spending their retirement at Yellowstone. There was a whole thing, a mysterious thing, and I was dressed peculiar, as I get dressed up kind of strange patterns, strange colors. So I had my hair, I looked very strange. I had my hair in these kind of Aztec type knots and braids. Like I was preparing myself to kind of go to war within myself. And so anyways, I had a very, Aztec style braids. So I looked peculiar, and there was this little diner in Yellowstone where you could go and eat at, and they served like different exotic meats. Not exotic, they were exotic to me: bison, buffalo. So we ate, bison burgers and buffalo and whatnot. And it was delicious, but we sat in a certain way, and my son was young, and he was like, Mom, these people keep staring at us. And there were old people looking like old fucking bastards. Like their denture's about to fall out. And so I kind of loudly told him that, I told him that it's okay. It was kind of loud, and I said, it's okay if people are staring at you, honey. Some people don't have good manners, and it's important for you to still do the things that you want to do and live the way you want to live, even if people do stare, because, maybe they need to see it too. Maybe they need to hear something. Maybe they need to be reminded that they are not the only person here on planet Earth, So I was kind of like they were being kind of rude with the staring and the whispering to each other and pointing, like at me. And my son had clocked it, and I was like, whatever, people whisper and stare all the time, who gives a fuck? But my son had clocked it consciously for the first time, that somebody was looking at us in a weird way, and it made him feel weird. And not just somebody, old people, which are kind of scary looking. Sometimes old people are scary looking, especially to children. They're spooky. I'm so close to death. It's scary. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But no, yeah. No, yeah. Sometimes old people are fucking scary. But yeah. So, anyways, they were looking at us a certain way, and so I was just being loud with my son, and I was like, well, honey, this one's eating my popcorn. That sucks. Where could it be? Oh, it's in here. Okay. So yeah, I was just like, honey, it's okay, it's fine, fuck them, whatever. No, I'm kidding, I didn't say that, but I was like, it's okay. Some people just don't have manners, and some people are just so curious, and it's important for you to blah blah blah, right? Whatever. So we're eating at the diner. Old people are staring at us. I'm eating a bison burger or something of that nature, some type of bison flavored food. And I was like, this is interesting. Oh, we only have cattle in Texas. So I thought that was strange. I was like, wow, how fun, whatever. So we ate the bison, and I was like, well, it's important for us to go to a place and eat the natural food that comes from the place. I don't know why. I think that it's just an important experience to do that. So it's like, for me, in some weird way, I guess I was like, we need to submit ourselves to the circumstances of where we're going in order to get the most out of it. You need to acclimate to the area you're in and the culture you're about to kind of go into. As a foreign person, even from Texas to Montana, there is a different shift. And even though I say ancient times, but I don't mean ancient times, in the past, people have done the cattle trails up and down, and blah, 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 so we were kind of walking these old paths that the ranchers, wranglers, and, cowboys took, from Texas to Montana within 24 hours. How efficiently could you get there? You know what I mean? So it was really cool. It was really fascinating. And years later, when I would take an ancestry result test or whatever, I would find out that my people, the indigenous parts of me, were spread that way from down to Mexico into the Southwest and slightly up towards Montana. And I even have some relatives that are indigenous people from the Arctic Circle. So it's fun and interesting later on to get validation for an experience that you submitted yourself to, even if it does take 5, 10, 15 years for you to come back and be like, oh my God, I traveled those avenues, those ancient game trails within the human mind and psyche that are actually on this earth, and then come to find out that my people used to do this as well, in one way or another. So it was kind of a healing, because I followed that treble hook pull, and then from that pull, that magnetic feeling of trusting myself and trusting what was happening and knowing that I could get myself out of anything I needed to, and I wouldn't let anything truly bad happen. It was important. It was me developing trust between things that I could not see, but I could feel, and myself. And it was so important. There's a beautiful river in Billings. I think it's called the Two Moons River. And we went there, and I just felt, it was at dusk when we went there, and I just felt like, I felt so small and yet so a part of everything. And the shade of the twilight, the incoming twilight of dusk, was that beautiful huckleberry color. And it was just so beautiful. Oh God, it was so important to me. Anyways, so back to Yellowstone. We're at Yellowstone. We're traveling around. We're seeing like bison and these beautiful rams. And if you don't know anything about rams, they're essentially blind. They're blind. So let's talk about astrology and Aries. I've heard of an astrologer. I didn't come up with this, but I've heard tales of like in esoteric astrology that there is how do you say, with Aries, the ram is essentially blind. And so that is where Aries finds its ability to manifest from a state that you cannot clearly see, but they are blind and they still head forward, go. They can manifest things extraordinarily quickly. And I have such a divine interest in Aries because, well, first of all, I'm a Libra. And so I like relating things to things. I like it. I like relation. I like understanding how two things fit next to each other and how they fit together and how they're different and whatnot. I understand the contrast of things. So when I see an Aries person, I think, number one, wow, like, or somebody with Aries energy. I'm just like, that's interesting. How do you do the things you do? Well, they do it from a realm that is, they're basically blind, headstrong and blind, and they go blindly into the future with this this manifestation ability quickly to bring something into reality, even though they can't see too much. They can protect their vision. Even though they can't see, they still have a vision. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anyways, back up. We saw some rams, and I was like, wow, and they were climbing the mountainside. And inside of Yellowstone, you'll find every season. Doesn't matter what season. And we were in autumn, winter-esque-ish time. We were in it was either autumn or winter, but there was snow at Yellowstone in different areas, and some places had been affected with fire. Perhaps lightning strike burned the whole area of trees. So there was these black lined trees against these glorious mountains, and there was so much. If you've never been to Yellowstone, I suggest you motherfucking go. But I like going places and getting lost in things. So essentially that's what we did. But here's the thing: we had a time constraint. I had to drive us there, and then I had to essentially get us back because my husband had one day off and he still needed to go to work the next night. So, like I said before, there was no cell phone service really when I went. There was no cell phone service. And it was, talk about getting yourself into a fucking situation. We got lost in Yellowstone with no cell phone service. So I had to follow roads. I just had to instinctively pick a road and follow it. And night was coming on quick. And I wanted to go see this waterfall in the area that I saw on the map. And so I was like, if we could get to the waterfall, then I can see where the roads fork. And then I'll be able to find myself back to a main road, and then we can leave. If we go to a main road and exit Yellowstone towards the outskirts of it, then we'll be able to have cell service, and I'll be able to find the appropriate route out of Yellowstone and then back to Billings. But I had to figure that out myself because I was in the thick of it, and we were lost in Yellowstone. And so I was just like, to me, I wasn't scared. I knew we had time. I knew I could make it. I just did not fucking know how. But I was like, let's just fall into something. Let's just trust the universe and fall into something, shall we? And if we die, we die. Just kidding. No, but it felt like that. There was also some bears, and the park rangers are like, don't touch the bears, don't feed the bears. And of course, every white person that side of the Mississippi wanted to go and clog up traffic and be like, oh my God, bears. They get excited, and they have to have the rangers out there looking at the bears and whatnot. We saw, Old Faithful, the geyser, and my son, my baby at the time, we had a fox outfit for him. And he was dressed as a fox. He had like a whole snuggly fox outfit with a hood that had ears and a little tail. And so he was just a bundle of a little fox, and to keep him warm and everything. And it was so cute. And there was a lot of people from Japan that were at Old Faithful. They were at Old Faithful at the time when we were there. And, or Old Faithful, yes, the guys, And so everybody from this little tour that were like from Japan or whatever at the time was like, they came up to me and my son, they're like, can we get a picture? And so they were like, with the little fox baby. And it was so cute. It was so cool. It was so much fun. But I think the funnest part was actually getting lost in Yellowstone and not knowing exactly where we were going or why we were going or how we were going. And so you know what I did? Can I be honest with you? It was past dusk, and it became black. Everything was becoming black and pitch black. There are no lights out there. It is forest. There are headlights from your vehicle. We were in a company truck, and I was going pretty fucking fast. There are all kinds of things in the darkness in Yellowstone that creep and crawl and cross, and there's giant elk and rams and bears and bison, and there's buffalo. There's everything is in Yellowstone. All these beautiful things. And it was up to me. Get the fuck out of there! So I was like, I volunteer, I'll do it, sure, whatever. And then I was just like, I have to trust myself. I have to trust my instincts. I have to go into a deeper, darker part of myself and try to fucking pull a rabbit out of this goddamn hat. And I did. I pulled a rabbit out of my hat. So what happened was it was dusk. It was dark. And I was like, fuck me. Fuck God damn it. I started looking up at the sky and I was like, oh, Polaris. Okay, North Star. Like, if we go north far enough, I looked on the map of Yellowstone where we were at. I was like, if we go north far enough, we'll hit this little area. And so I was just like, okay, where's north? Okay, the sun's set over there. Okay, that's west. So then north. Okay, so I was like using the fucking sunset as my goddamn compass. So I used the sunset as my compass. I was like, okay, the sun's setting over there the way that the road's traveling, and my husband had fallen back asleep. And I was like, cool, it's fine. We're chilling. Just relax, thank you for coming with us. I know you've been working hard and whatnot. You need your sleepy rest. And internally, I'm like, holy shit, motherfucker, goddamn, I can't call no one if we're lost. And we have to go home. So I was like, okay, west, north. All right, drive. And then I was like, oh, fuck. Every time I came to a fork, I was like, okay. I would look at the horizon where west was, and I was like, okay, there, fucking look at this shitty map I had. And I was like, oh no, but then I trusted myself. There was fear. There was an extraordinary amount of fear because, where were we? But it was exciting too. It was so much fun getting lost in Yellowstone. I thought it was fun. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I thought it was fun. And, everyone was fine. The kids were happy. They were taken care of. They had I think my son at the time had a little tablet, and him and his brother were in the back just watching their little cartoon TV shows or whatever that had been downloaded onto their thing, or they were doodling with their games, their little whatnot. So they were fine. My husband was sleeping and resting, and it was up to me to be this magician and magically trust and find my way out of Yellowstone, even though we were lost. We got to see a lot of things, and it was very beautiful, and it was life-changing. And I sobbed so deeply when we had to leave for Texas. I did not want to leave. I cried so hard for an hour's time. My husband had to drive because I was crying so hard. And when we hit Coronation again, essentially where the area was, we pulled over on the side, and I just dropped to my knees. I started fucking crying and kind of freaking out because I wanted to say goodbye. I wanted to be like, oh fuck, and I felt so fucking deeply connected. It was penetrating to something inside of me that was not physical. And this whole experience had taught me a lot about trust. It had taught me a lot about trust and the abilities that I had within my body to get out of something. It was such a deep, huge lesson the time I spent in Montana. And of course, there was other things that had happened as well. Other things that were external that were happening around me that were kind of scary and confusing, with chemical plant workers and refinery men and blue-collared workers. There's a tendency for them to be mischievous and how do you say? I'm gonna just say it in the way that I can't think of the word. Promiscuous? Sluts. Whores. Little whores. These little blue-collar workers. But no, they cheat on their wives and they have a camaraderie. We go together to the strip club. We do not talk about this to our wives. We are in unison. We are legion, and we have an agreement that what happens here stays here. And so when I went with my husband, yeah, I saw all the chemical plant workers and the blue-collared boys going to the strip clubs together, and it was a silent thing. We're gonna go together, and we will not tell, and we will lie, and we will hide and whatnot. I saw them doing that, and I knew they did that. Everybody who has experience with blue-collar workers understands that there is a stupid fucking thing that happens where they overwork themselves, and then they have to have a family, the American dream. And so they have a family, they have to overwork themselves, and then because of the overworking, they have to ingest tons and tons of food very quickly and just satisfy their needs within the time they get off. And so they're like, well, I'm away from my family and I have specific needs, I want to feel a certain way, so they go to these strip clubs and whatnot. And it's actually a whole thing. It's a dance that happens between blue-collar workers and whatnot. And so let's say your wife does find out, right, that you went to a strip club, you betrayed your marriage trust and whatnot. So now you guys are getting divorced, you have to pay child support. Go back to work. You have to now pay child support, go back to work. Work harder and repeat the cycle until I guess you end up in a pine box 6 feet under. So anyways, it's a pathetic, sad dance that happens, but it does happen, and it's very, once you're in it, you're in it. You can't see you're in it, but outside of it, when you witness it, you're like, oh God. No, so anyways, my husband didn't do that, but he has people in his life who do that, and one of the guys went to the strip club with all of the boys because they all had a day off together. So they went to the strip club. And I have relatives who are sex workers and things like that. So, and I would help them prepare to go to these places. So I knew how it worked behind the scenes. I know how strip clubs work behind the scenes because I've had to help family and friends prepare themselves, women who do work in these places, prepare themselves for their nights. So I have an intimate understanding of how it really works behind the pleasurable illusions of eroticism or whatever, whatever the fuck you want to bag and tag strip clubs as, whatever. I have like an intimate understanding of how it works behind the scenes. So I'm just like, it's not, to me, it's not, wow, it's just kind of like, it's a jab, so I'm just like, whatever about the whole strip club thing. So yeah, anyways, I have friends and relatives who are sex workers, and whenever you have that kind of understanding of like what goes on behind the scenes, it goes from being this mysterious illusions of smoke and mirrors and music and sensations to like, I took this rat girl and turned her into a star, because you see the girls when you see the girls when they come home, when they leave to go to the club and do their dance and get their money very quickly, it's good pay. You can make a lot of money in a night. It's very dangerous though. A lot of stress on the psyche. Too much. I would never do it. And but I've helped others prepare. I'm like, okay, you're doing it. That's fine. Let's make sure you do it right. Let's make sure your hair is perfect. Your makeup is flawless. Your outfit, what are we doing with that? How are you going to do that? Is it secure? Is it safe? Are you okay with this? Do you agree with what you're doing? You do? Okay, fine, let's go forward. So, things like that. Like I've helped some of my relatives prepare for a night, and, I wanted to make sure their hair was flawless and teased and their makeup was good and that they were appropriate for the evening so they could get the most bang for their buck. Anyways, back to the refinery workers. So they do a little dance, right? They're like, oh, I'm doing things behind my wife's back. And, me and my husband had an agreement. Like, we're not doing that. We are not these people. You can be around these people, but we're not partaking in this. We are different. And it's okay that we're different. There's contrast between us and them, and it's fine. We can enjoy the benefits of you being a refinery worker or whatever, but you do not have to submit yourself to that. And I honestly, with my boundaries, I refuse to be with somebody who constantly acts a certain way. So it was an understanding between my husband and I that we were not going to do that. We wanted to have a family. We wanted our life to be a certain way. And so because we wanted our life to be a certain way, there was no room for inexcusable lies and whatnot, stuff like that, right? And I'm not saying like that we're perfect or anything, but I am saying that if there's ever an issue, we have the cojones to sit there and talk it out and work it out. Instead of like diving into vices and addictions. I'm a very big, very big person on let's hash it out. Let's figure out what the fuck is going on. And let's spend as much time as we need to figuring out what the fuck is going on. Instead of diving into that bad area of our addictions, subconscious trauma, and allowing it to reenact some kind of deep, dark thing. So anyways, his coworkers went to the strip club and they were doing things at the strip club. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I did hear that one of the person's fathers-in-laws ended up dying or something like that. And so he was at the strip club crying. And how do you explain that to your wife? Oh, babe, I'm out with the guys. I'm out with the guys. At the strip club crying because your father-in-law died. Well, that's such a strange thing. I can't imagine what that experience was like when you surrounded by babes, and then also your wife calling you being like, your father-in-law is dead or whatever, blah blah blah. Whatever had happened, you know what I'm saying? Something had happened within his family, and while he was out and about doing nefarious things with women of the night. Whatever, none of my business. None of my business what you do in your free time, boy. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting. And it's kind of sad, like I said, the refinery workers, they do have deep game trails. Let's call it that, the deep cut game trails of where you're supposed to go. But I'm an off trail kind of girl, and sometimes people get mad at that. They're like, stay on the trail or whatever. And I'm not disrespectful or anything, but I have an adventurous nature. I want to see things that we're not allowed to see. I want to go places and experience things that they tell us it's too dangerous sometimes to go. What is the danger? You know, and growing older, I am 32, I am getting older. I understand. I have a lot of respect within myself. So I understand my nature. But as a child, that nature was insatiable. Why is it dangerous? What is in here? One time my mother had a bag for traveling. We traveled a lot when I was a child. And we were going to California. We were going to go live in Riverside for a little bit with one of their mutual friends. And then from there we moved to East LA or whatever. I've told this story before with all the Alexes. So anyways, we were traveling and we were in Arizona. We were going to California, and I didn't know that I had a rabbit at the time. I didn't know it was illegal to like bring in certain creatures from other states to other states. I didn't know, like, if it's an invasive creature such as the kind of rabbit I had, you're not legally allowed to have it. So I I'm just kidding. I didn't do this. But I may or may have not, when I was very young, snuck a rabbit into California because it was my pet. Pet rabbit. I tend to have pet rabbits over the years, and unfortunately I have the worst luck with rabbits. The worst luck with rabbits, but man, I love the way they are. They're so beautiful. I love rabbits. And as a child, as a baby, when I was like 1 to 4 years old, I had a jackrabbit as a pet, right? And he was so big. He was so fucking big. We had to put a harness on him, like a dog's harness. And I would walk him around our neighborhood in San Antonio when I lived there as a baby. And he ate cat food. He ate all kinds of crazy things. It was a very strange rabbit. And so I would walk him up and down the neighborhood, you know, my rabbit on a leash. And the neighbors would leave cat food out at their doors for me to go feed the rabbit with. Or they would leave little treats outside their house. I shit you not. And me and my mom would walk down the street to the taco truck and get barbacoa tacos. And there was this ice cream man who always brought, he had this Bozo flavored ice cream, Bozo the Clown. And it was so delicious. It was so good. It was one of my favorite ice creams ever. It was probably just vanilla with coloring, but to me, the colors, you could taste the colors in the vanilla or whatever, but it was Bozo flavored ice cream. Maybe I'll put a picture of it right here. And we'd walk through the taco truck at the end of the way with my rabbit and my mother and I. And people would leave little treats out on the doorstep for me to go up, because they'd say, "Look, it was that little girl in her poofy little Cinderella dress with her rabbit." Because that's what it looked like. I had this blue Cinderella dress I'd wear. So it was me in my blue Cinderella dress, my little blonde hair, and my rabbit walking down the street to go get barbacoa tacos. And that's just how it was. That's how it was. I've always had animals, but I love rabbits, but I have the worst luck with them. And some people offered my parents money to we had a mallard. His name was Harvey, and he was a big, big duck. And they would offer my parents money to see if they could buy our animals because they were so fat. And so happy. They were so fat. My rabbit was so fat, people wanted to eat him. And like in Hispanic culture and, you know, Mexican culture, whatever, you know, they fucking eat stuff. They eat goats, they eat all kinds of things that I guess the Western society would find like exotic or strange or weird, you know. But like there's a special way people would make barbacoa or cachetas de res, you know, like the cheek of the cow, the cachetas de res. Cachetas de res. I think that's how it's called. Cachetas de res. Anyways, like the cheek, you know, you eat the tongue, the cheek, the parts of the animal that people would not eat generally. Like menudo is one of my favorite things to eat, and it's the the lining of a stomach. But fuck, is it delicious. I love menudo. It is barbacoa, menudo. Oh, love it. Love it. In fact, I go to this place down the way that my mom used to take me to. I'm about to cry. I used to go to this place down the way that my mom would take me to. And she'd get herself a beer and she'd buy me menudo. And she'd always take the first bite and she would tell me things like, I just need to see if it's poisoned. I'm tasting it for poison. She would always say that to me throughout my whole life. She'd eat the first bite of my food and say, I'm just testing it to see if it's poisonous. And I was like, what? You could just tell me if you want to eat my food. We could share. She's like, no, I don't want to share with you, but I need to test it first. And she would always test it before I ate it. And so then she took me to this place down the way, and every Friday and Saturday, the Sundays, the weekends, you can actually pay a mariachi band to come sing for you. And so she'd get a beer, she'd order me menudo, and she'd take the first bite, and then she'd pay the mariachi band to come sing to me. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, no, mom, please, mom, please, no. You know, over my entire life, it was me begging my mom not to embarrass me, like begging her, like praying to fucking God and Jesus and Mary as hard as I could so she wouldn't embarrass me. And then she would just embarrass the fuck out of me. Red blood beat red cheeks and hives, and I would just be like, you know, no. And she was like, hey. You know, and they came over, what's going on? You know, I'd start singing very loud, very close to intimate tables. It was a very small Mexican restaurant. She'd be drinking her beer, you know, just sitting there, getting drunk, and I'd be eating my menudo. I'm so embarrassed. People looking at me eating while I can't eat now. She's like, you better fucking eat, because we gotta go, so you better fucking eat, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, okay. You know, so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. But now, every time, because she has passed away in 2 days, it'll be her like death anniversary. And it's very sad. And I've been kind of dealing with that. It's hard and it's difficult, but I haven't been running from it. I've been looking it in the eyes and just accepting it and processing it. But when I go back to that place, it's still the same. But she's not there. And I look at I always, when I get menudo, I ask for a large one and they give me chips and everything. And sometimes I feel illiterate because I don't know fluent Spanish. I could read it very well, I just cannot speak it. So I feel illiterate and embarrassed that I don't even know my own culture's language sometimes. But I when they're preparing it and I pay, I always look back to the booth where we would sit at. And I think about that memory where she was just getting drunk, kind of laughing. You know, it's embarrassment and shame is so deeply integrated in Hispanic culture, at least Texas Mexican culture. Oh God, embarrassing your child and then shame. It was so deep. Oh God. So every time I look back, there's a fucking mix of feelings. I feel the memory, the embarrassment, like, oh God, mom, and then I feel sad, like, oh, she'll never embarrass me again. And then I feel happy, well, she's not in pain. And then I feel, wow, what is this? I feel, and it's like I feel an array of colors, a starburst, a supernova of feelings. And then the man behind the counter goes, you good? And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, gracias, thank you. Okay, and then bye. And I said, bye, you know. Weird girl, you know. So it's strange because I'll sit there in silence, just like this supernova of feelings about things. And I live in a place where, you know, I'm always reminded of her. A courageous act for me to go and look these things in the face and be like, she was real, she did exist. Even though she's not here no more, that is okay. I feel these things and I'm allowed to, and I need to process them. You can't heal unless you feel, but they're so big and it is so hard sometimes, you know. And I talk to my friends and my family, and everyone's aware right now. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. They're kind of treating me very delicately, and I appreciate it. I really do appreciate everybody being so gentle to me. Thank you. Because, you know, the ability humans have to recover in their, is it neuroelasticity within the brain? I find it to be extremely fascinating to see humans overcoming such things. It's beautiful, you know, and in a way, it's haunting. I'm using this. It's a plum. It's Color La Maybelline New York Color Sensational Shaping Lip Liner in like a plum. I think it's some kind of plum color. I don't know. You can't see it, but it's a very dark plum. I had to fix this. Oh my god, I had to fix this. Jesus Christ. Time to let down my rat's nest. Anyways. Anyways, so yes, it's going to be a difficult couple of days, and yes, I have the capacity to deal with it. Do I want to deal with it? Sometimes no. Do I understand it's important to deal with it so I could heal it? Yes, but do I want to? No, it's work. Do you think I want? Do you think anybody wakes up and goes, oh my goodness, I can't wait to find out what kind of psychological fuckery is waiting underneath the surface? Nobody does that. Nobody fucking does that. So it's work. It's hard work. I have to go and sit with myself and be like, you know, no, okay, it's not boring. It's exciting, but it's not fun. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it too much. I can do it, but it's not something I enjoy. Like I enjoy grilling, right? I enjoy cooking good food and grilling. I do not enjoy being like, oh, I'm gonna go get some menudo from this my favorite, you know, Mexican restaurant down the way, and then sit there and be like, the cat's in the cradle of the silver spoon. You know, like I don't like doing that. I don't think anybody does. It feels bad. So I don't want to do things that make me feel bad. I would rather be in the ecstasy of happiness and bliss. I would rather be blissful instead of like, oh my god, there's a fucking ouchie wawa feeling. I'm starting to feel a certain way. And it hurts very bad. So I, you know, like, what the fuck? Like, of course I don't want to feel bad. Nobody does. But is it important to go into those feelings and free them? Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's important to free your feelings. And be like, okay, well, listen. Sorry, I have to let this glitter stop dry down. It's important to go into your feelings and be like, okay, listen, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And then like allow them to go into the light of whatever they need to instead of just buzz around aimlessly on the windowsills of your, you know, your mind and then die there. Got a fucking moon right here, alright? Listen, I got the moons in my eye like a fucking pizza pie. It's amore. Okay, so I feel better. I feel so cleansed. No, okay, so anyways, all I am trying to say, essentially and eventually, the point I was trying to get to is, number one, if you haven't gone to Montana, go to Montana. It's one of the most beautiful, elegant, mysterious, devastatingly haunting places in the entire universe. Of course, there is addiction and there is a lot of trauma and other things that are happening around certain areas, and there's strange power dynamics and whatnot. But if you've never gone to Montana, go. It's beautiful. It's one of the places I like always look at on Zillow to buy land. I'm like, well, I don't have money. But if I did have money, I would go to Montana and buy some land and just be there. The breath is different. It's a higher elevation. I live below sea level. I don't think you understand. It felt like I was close to God. Just being in an Arby's parking lot in Billings. I was like, everyone's so nice here. And everyone was so nice where I was. Everyone was extremely nice to me. And I was so used to like the confusing, aggravating, mean nice of Texas. There's mean, cruel nice here where people are like, oh, well, bless your heart kind of thing. And it's like, number one. And number two. So what I'm trying to get at is go to Montana. And the reason I bought this silly fucking case was because this looks like Yellowstone. And Yellowstone was one of the greatest experiences I've had in my life. And I love it so much. And I miss it. And did I drive to Montana in less than 24 hours? Yes. Was it extremely dangerous and difficult? Yes. Did I take turns with my husband? Yes. Could I count on him? Yeah, sometimes, but I could definitely trust myself to do the right thing. I'm not saying my husband does the wrong thing, but I mean, I could trust myself. And I asked my husband, do you trust me? And he said, well, why? What are you going to do? No, you don't ask what I'm going to do. You just, do you trust me to get us there safely? And yeah, okay, do you trust me to get us there in an efficient time? He kind of didn't. There was 1% of belief in him. He kind of didn't believe me that I could do the things that I say I can do. So I was like, I'll make a believer out of you. I'll make a man out of you. And so I hit the open roads, and when I got there, I decimated the truck. And I mean, there's long stretches of openness, and oh God, it is glorious, and it's so beautiful. And I love it, and I loved it, and I will always love it. God damn, it was so fucking pretty. Anyways, so Montana, glorious, beautiful place. Billings, I liked it a lot. The rabbits, super cute. Yellowstone, immaculate. Hauntingly beautiful. Disturbingly peaceful. Did I get lost? Yes. Did I get us out? Yes. Was it an adventure? Absolutely. Was it scary? Yeah. Me telling you this, and you know, how do they say, retrospect, I believe. Was it stupid? Sure. Of course it was. Anything is stupid. Everything's stupid. Was it dumb? Yeah. But was it fun? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was I fucking freaking out on the inside? Absolutely. What do you think I sat there? Did you think I sat there and I was just like, we're lost. Whee! No. I was like, we're lost. Pull up every single file your brain has ever had on fucking getting out of a situation without alerting the press, you know, alerting everybody in the truck. It's fake it till you make it. Out of Yellowstone. Everyone was fine. Everything was fine. It was fine. Everything was fine. I figured it out. I did it myself. Not myself, but like internally and externally, we figured it out. Me and the universe. Do people get lost there and stuck? And you know, we were running low on gas in the middle of being lost, and there was a Jenga spiral of things stacked against me. And I looked at it and I went, piece by piece, we'll figure this out. And that's what I did. I took this situation piece by piece. I remembered where the sun was setting. I remember where I was at on the road, and I started looking at stars when they appeared to figure out where the fuck I was going until we could get cell phone service, which was, we were in the middle of the park. The park's huge. It's huge. It's big. It was wilderness. And I took that journey into the wilderness blindly, and I found myself. It was so cool. Like, it was so cool. It was a lot of fun, and everybody had fun. It was a beautiful experience, and it was so funny to see everybody on the Japanese, the caravan of people from Japan, coming up to me with my little fox son, and them being like, you know, next to him, and they were like, can we get a picture? And so I was like, okay. And so I was holding my baby, and they were just like next to him, like they were like, it's so cute, and like excited about him. And I was just like, oh God, don't snatch my baby. No, they weren't gonna snatch my baby, but I think in the back of every woman's mind who has a child in their arms, they're kind of frightened of things touching it. It's like, I have to protect this baby, you know? I feel like that about a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like that about people. I'm like, I must protect this gigantic grown baby. Especially people who are misunderstood. I'm like, you stay away from him. Um, and that's not my job. I'm not everybody's mother. I'm not your mom. But I have to go into myself, speaking of others, and learn how to nurture myself. And I'm working with different aspects of my existence in order to accomplish that goal in nurturing myself. And yeah. So, number one, it was an adventure. And an adventure is full. It is not just one thing or another thing. It's not just heads or tails. It is every single atom that creates the coin and every vibration in between those empty spaces. It was an adventure going to Montana, discovering how I am and who I am and who I could be and how far I could take myself all the way to Montana in 24 hours on a certain amount of sleep and pulling over and finding safe spots to rest for a moment's time and then getting back, onto the grindstone, back out on the road and figuring out where to go. And I remember I wanted to be there to cross state lines, and I told my husband, I'm too tired, I can't do this. And I asked when my cup was empty and I needed to refill it, I asked him, hey, please take the wheel. Can you awake? I need you to take the wheel so I can sleep now. It's time for me to rest. And I said, but please, I don't care if we are there in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes. When we cross state lines, before we get there, wake me up. Wake me up before we hit Montana. I want to feel it. I want to feel the crossing. I want to feel the threshold. Please wake me up. And so he did. He pulled over on the side of the road and he woke me up, and he went to go get, we had food and water in the back of the truck and like a cooler. And I woke up to these large mountains. Everything was white and blue. Everything was white, blue, and gray, and bright and brilliant. The sun had come out, and I was like in the back of the truck, kind of like covered in darkness, sleeping in my little shell. And I got out, and it blinded me. It blinded me. The sky was so blue, and the sun was so bright, and the clouds are so white, and the mountains were so gray and blue and white, and everything was sheeted with snow, like glistening from the snow. And where we pulled over, I saw an entire carcass of a coyote, and I was like, we made it here. It was so bizarre. It was like the coyote had guided me the whole way there. The trickster was still with me. But it was like a moment when we stopped at that threshold of Montana crossing into, and where we were at, or we could pull over because everyone was going at least 100 on the road up there. It was just pure freedom to and from there. There's a certain area where there is no law and there is no signs to tell you how fast you're supposed to go. And so people were just going 100. So the best thing to do was to find an offshoot to go hide, and not hide, but like, get away from the road of, travelers and whatnot. And it was really amazing. I'll never forget. Everything was so white and blue and gray and brilliant. So fucking bright. I've never seen mountains that big before. And I've never seen them that glorious. I was so confused. And as to what I was looking at. They were gods, giants. I could feel them. They were towering and amazing. I felt different. I had been in a higher elevation. I just felt different. And when I saw the coyote's carcass, it was fully intact. It was a full skeletal. Like, it wasn't meaty, but it was bone, sun bleached bone, barely any hair. The hair had disintegrated to the ground, and it was kind of frozen, and it was just the skeletal structure of the coyote. And I took that as an indication within myself that he had guided me so far. He had guided me to Montana, and that was where he stopped. The coyote aspect of the trickster had stopped. And then we went into Crow Nation, and I felt something shift deep inside of me. And like I said before, I went on Ancestry many, many years later, and I was like, oh, I have my people. They came from down here, and they are spread this way and that way in the Southwest. And so it was kind of like a strange resonance, like a resonating familiarity within my bones calling me there. It was like a strange hymn, and I was confused. It was like the mountains were singing, and I could hear them, but I couldn't quite understand what they were saying, but I could pick up the context of what was happening below the surface. And when I got there, we stood on this hill. When we got to Crow Nation, we stood on this hill and overlooked everything. And I remember my eldest son standing on top of the hill, just with his arms outstretched like a bird. And he was so little, he had no idea what he was doing, but he was just like in the sun with his arms stretched out like a bird. And I was like, wow, it feels right here. There's something here. I could feel something. So if you feel something deep and resonating within your bones, investigate it. Don't just listen to my stories or take things out of my mouth and run with it. Find your own meaning and purpose for everything, every story, every feeling, and find your own thing. It's your path and it's unique to you. I have nothing to fucking do with it. Truly, I have my own path to walk, and ours, they can be in alignment. Sometimes we can walk parallel, but you cannot skitter on the rails that I am, because it's not yours. And if you do, you risk losing yourself and falling into this abysmal area of confusion. Where am I? Who am I? What am I? Some people don't walk out of that. So what I'm saying is, investigate your truth. Know thyself, know your craft. Isn't that what they say? And then also, silence is golden sometimes. But I'm a yapper. So I I found peace within those holy mountains, and I found myself. I found aspects of myself. How far can I go? How quick can I run? How fast are these heels? How well can I hunt my way out of this situation? How do you pull a rabbit out of a hat? I got a rabbit out of the hat 101 from the Yellowstone. And also seeing everybody gather to watch Old Faithful and the geyser fields and things like that, and going into those places off the trails that are a little bit dangerous, and seeing bears and all these majestic creatures. It just connected me back to like, wow, this is a holy place. This is a place that is real and undefined, but kept in a bounds. And yet, let one thing happen to society and it will become boundless, eternal. Everywhere will be like this again. I had a lot of respect and also a lot of confusion, because if you follow certain animal patterns and migratory things, such as I do, you'll notice that the bighorn sheep in Montana are actually having issues reproducing, because there's certain enzymes and bacterias in the ground that they are devouring selenium or zinc, things that are important, minerals that are important for reproductive organs to actually work. The earth is not allowing it to go back into the soil or back into the grass that the bighorn sheep eat. Now, the issue I have with this is, number one, now we have to, sorry, I'm getting into another thing, but I follow migratory patterns of animals. I just do, and I love animals. I love them so much. But I pay attention to things that are important, such as whenever there is a bacteria in the earth that devours selenium and zinc and certain minerals and then destroys them and will not re-release them into the environment. They have to put salt licks, essentially, a mineral type of vitamin, out into the environment for the bighorn sheep to lick at will, because their numbers are being decimated, because they are losing their reproductive abilities naturally. So now we have to supplement those sheep with certain like external minerals, or at least that's just one story I heard. Some, people that were following the bighorn sheep, and whenever you see the earth taking things away, is that our fault? Did something happen? Of course, things happen all the time. There was a huge chemical leak in the Yellowstone River because of the train derailment, and there's been certain things like that. So it comes from within us, like the destructive nature, and also within the earth. She is withholding certain things and dropping the numbers of the sheep. The sheep cannot reproduce without our help now, and so now we have to supplement them, which is kind of scary, right? Can you imagine? You lose your ability to reproduce. All humans lose their ability to reproduce because of an enzyme in the soil that refuses to allow you to have a type of mineral for your body that allows it to happen without, babies coming out in a way that is not socially pleasing or whatever, It's interesting. It's bizarre and curious, and something that I think I'm going to go do more research on today is bighorn sheep. So, all that being said, was it dangerous? Yes. Was it spooky dooky? Sure, why not? Was it stupid? Of course. Am I an idiot? Sometimes, yes. Was it foolish of me? Yeah. Did I still start the journey without being fully prepared? Yes. I thought I had everything I needed to do this journey. And was the journey worth it? Was the juice worth the squeeze? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is important for you to go out into the world sometimes, not just in my hermit shell of my little cavern here in South Texas, but also to take those journeys far and wide and see the things that you need to see, the magneticism within yourself being pulled to certain vortexes on planet Earth. Sure, why not? Go figure out what the fuck you're made out of. Or stay within the comfort of your society and culture and don't do that. And mock and mimic others and see who you are whenever you are not satisfying or satiating the needs within your body. How does that child cry? So I'm going to see you guys later. God damn it, I have to go edit this. I always get to the end and I go, fuck. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.